So we're kind of happy that it's raining, not only because we need the rain, but a bunch of people didn't come because it was raining, and if it wasn't raining, I don't know where we would have put everybody. So thank you again. This is a smashing success, and today is the day. This is where it all started, May 6th, 1941, and we're so proud to do this. And we're kind of saddened by what's happening in Burbank this week, but here in Riverside County, we are really proud of Bob Hope. We love Bob Hope. As you know, in Riverside County, there's a street named after him. We have exhibits here for Bob Hope. The Palm Springs Air Museum has exhibits for Bob Hope. In those days, when nobody had TV, there was no social media. The troops had no entertainment. There was nothing for them to do. But Bob Hope came and delivered morale-boosting comedy and performances. He was a tireless, selfless performer, traveled all over the world to entertain our troops, did an amazing job, and that legacy should never be forgotten. And even to this day, nobody else has ever been able to come close to what Bob Hope did. So in Riverside County and at Marchfield, we will never forget Bob Hope. So there's actually a couple of people I want to introduce. You just met Colonel Dana Hesheimer, commander of the 163rd Attack Wing, also with us today here from the NOSC at March, the Navy Operations Support Center, Reserve Commander Trey Glaze. Trey, thanks for coming. A special shout out today to General Harry Goldsworthy. Sir, you need to stand. General Goldsworthy. Okay. Does anybody want to guess how old the general is? 102. 102 years old. And he's here. I mean, how amazing is that, right? And then today we also have the privilege of having Major General John Flournoy. He's the commander of 4th Air Force. I think some of you know how busy he is. He has 13 bases under his command, but he is here today to join us. And so here for some remarks, Major General John Flournoy, commander of 4th Air Force.
Thanks, Jamil. Wow, what a great event. And no, don't ask me how old I am, please. Thank you. And no, I was not here when March Air Reserve Base started. But my name is Jay Flournoy, and what a pleasure it is to be here with you all. What a great crowd. This is just a fantastic event to not only remember the great 75 years that have gone on since the USO started back in actually February of 1941, but since that first show that Mr. Bob Hope gave while standing right here at Marchfield and doing his radio program from right here. The USO has absolutely a fantastic history. Of course, it was started back when Franklin Delano Roosevelt was around, and he actually convinced these service organizations, these giving organizations, 6 of which, and I'm going to name them real quick. They're the Salvation Army, the YMCA, the YWCA, the National Catholic Community Services, the National Travelers Aid Association, and the National Jewish Welfare Board, convinced them all to come together to put together the USO. And we have them to thank for that, because it was put together to bring together those airmen and kind of bring that piece of home to these American fighting men and women. And so, and it's gone on since then. So of course, during, back in the history of March Air Reserve Base, we've been on the receiving end of some pretty incredible support over the years. But I got to tell you, before the USO, it wasn't always that way. There's a story about when Lieutenant Colonel Hap Arnold was the wing commander here at Marchfield back in the 1930s. And in the town of Riverside, they had signs in the window, and the shop owners had signs that said, "No dogs and no servicemen." So you can Google it. So the important part to understand about that is Hap Arnold had the forethought to think about the relationships that he needs to make within the Southern California area. And he had a great opportunity to build those relationships and ensure that we provided for our men and women serving in the armed forces. And so now, of course, that has changed significantly, and the city of Riverside and the local community are absolutely phenomenal at supporting our men and women in uniform. So the USO did some fantastic and has done fantastic things over the years from its inception in World War II, where it was then shut down and stopped service from about 1947 until 1950. And then since 1950, they've been doing great things for our men and women serving, as well as their dependents across the entire country, and I would say across the entire world. You know, if Bob Hope were standing here today, he would be probably standing here with his signature golf club, right, that everybody's familiar with, right? Golf clubs have changed over the years since Bob Hope, right? But the concept of the golf club has not changed. And I would argue that the beautiful airplanes that you see flying today and the satellites that you see out there, or the remotely piloted vehicles that we see out there flying, those are absolutely fantastic improvements in technology. But the one thing that has not changed is the spirit and giving of the people of the USO and the volunteers of the USO. And we ought to be very thankful to them for their incredible service to us. So the men and women serving in your armed forces today, as well as in the past, those members of the Marine Corps, the United States Navy, the Army, the Coast Guard, the Merchant Marines, and our United States Air Force are so thankful for the support that we get from the USO. And I'll just leave you with one quote that Bob Hope said about giving, and that he says, "If you haven't got charity in your heart, you have the worst kind of heart trouble." The worst kind of heart trouble. So thank you for being here today, and thank you to the USO and to the March Air Museum for putting this on. Thanks so much.
So this next gentleman is a senior director for the Bob Hope USO. And the museum has actually adopted him the last few months. We've been collaborating with him and we're making him a member of our family. Amazing work that him and his team are doing. So let's give a round of applause to Greg Waskell, senior director of the Bob Hope USO.
Well, thank you, and really Jamil and the General said it all. We're so pleased to be working with March Air Reserve Base. We're so pleased to be working with the March Field Air Museum. What a tremendous museum. Can we please have a hand today for all the museum volunteers that are helping us? Also, I'd like to give a shout out to Jersey Mike's. Jersey Mike's came through with subs in the month of March. They raised $150,000 at Jersey Mike's in the Inland Empire to support our troops for the Bob Hope USO. Fantastic. I tell you, those kids came in at 2 in the morning and worked all night so you guys would have a fresh sub. They were not going to put it in the refrigerator. They were going to work all night to get your subs for you. That's what Jersey Mike's is. They're wonderful, and they're all around us, so they're great. Also, I'd just like to say that we have here in the Inland Empire, Bob Hope USO Ontario. It's in the old Terminal 1 of the Ontario Airport. It's one of the largest in terms of square feet USOs in the country. And our troops vote every year on the 105 USOs in the United States. And we heard last week the troops have voted Bob Hope USO Ontario #1 in the entire United States of America. So please come and visit us. We've got a car show on the 22nd. We're going to give tours of the center for those that come out. And it's our pleasure today to provide the food and to work with this incredible museum. I've worked with air museums around the world, and this is really one of the best. And it's just such a treasure to have something like this right here in our own backyard. It's just an awesome job that this board of directors does at the museum, these volunteers, and to be able to put on events like this. And to remember Mr. Hope, my grandparents were at that show in 1941, 75 years ago today. My mom was there, and she used to be babysat by the Andrews sisters, who have been reincarnated today as the Swing Dames. And we actually, so we just want to say thank you, and I just would like you to meet a very special person in our world, and that's Kristen Ramirez, who is the unbelievable center manager of Bob Hope USO Ontario, the #1 center manager in the United States for the USO, and she's in the back of the room. She's here with us today. Please stand, Kristen. Anyway, we hope you enjoy your day. Thank you again for supporting USO for 75 years.